Hey, welcome to episode 109 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast. We are recording on March the 14th, 2021. My name is Eric. I'm the host of the show, based in Southern Ontario. I'm a hunter, target shooter, ham radio operator, and computer geek. As a first responder, I witnessed an over-reliance on emergency services during major events. I started a small preparedness company to help people get prepared for at least 72 hours, if not longer.
All right, my name is Ian. I live on Vancouver Island. I'm a student in preparedness, target shooter, and my farm's designated handyman.
And my name is Jeff. I'm based in Central Ontario. I'm a target shooter, soon to be ham radio operator, and my general home handyman. I was in emergency services for 32 years and witnessed firsthand how much people rely on someone else when things go bad, and I vowed not to be that guy.
All right, if you want to help support the show and keep the Canadian Prepper Podcast on the air, you can buy some swag. We've got the Canadian Prepper Podcast t-shirt and the tactical Velcro patch. You can get them at prepperpodcast.ca. All the proceeds help keep the lights on and the backup generator fueled.
I agree with Jeff. I don't want to be that guy.
Me either.
Yeah. If you're enjoying the show, please take a few minutes to like us on Facebook and submit a review on iTunes. Also, we want your feedback, good or bad, or if there's just a topic you want us to cover, you can email us at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
All right, so we've got some up and smoke content for you in this episode. We're going to start off with some preparedness-related news articles. Next, we'll let you know what we've done for our preparedness since the last episode. Then we're going to get into the main topic, wood stove maintenance. Let's move into the news.
All right. On some happy news for the economic situation in Venezuela, they issued their 1 million bolivar note. So that should solve all their problems, right?
Of course.
So 1 million bolivars translates to 50 cents. So, in order to get a loaf of bread, it's going to cost you 4 million in local currency, or more. Wow. But yeah, so to say the hyperinflation is well on the way there is kind of an understatement. But I couldn't believe it, like 50 cents for 1 million bolivars now, and it used to be like almost 1-to-1 with the U.S. dollar. Anyway, wow. On a completely unrelated note. Past performance does not negate future performance, but Bank of Canada bond holdings skyrocketed. Bloomberg.com says that Canada's already pushing their bond holdings to the brink of the limits for the domestic bond market. And if you look at the chart that's in that article, it goes vertical from about 2020 onwards, so you can see where we're heading in the same direction as well.
I wonder why it's vertical all of a sudden.
So you think we're heading towards hyperinflation too?
Well, they've already said modern monetary theory is what they call money printing nowadays. They can't call it money printing because they have to call it quantitative easing or MMT. But they said their plan is to inflate their way out of the debt, which sounds to me like hyperinflation. Right. But I mean, that's the thing is like as long as the bonds are at or near zero, they figure inflation should take care of the debt long term, which is like insane on many levels. But anyway, what do I know? Just a dude.
Yeah, you're not that guy though.
Well, that's it for me, I think.
All right. So I've got an article here from CTV News, and it's in regards to wood stove ashes blamed for sparking a house fire in Muskoka Lakes. So figured that was a timely news article for the episode this evening, and a good reminder as to why we should be maintaining our wood stoves and fireplaces, or really anything that burns wood for heat.
And sadly, it's not as uncommon as people think either. It's
true. Happens quite often. Doesn't always hit the news, but it's around there quite often.
Well, and I've got one. Are out there. I mean, sooner or later somebody's gonna. Yeah, I mean, sooner or later somebody's gonna say that maintenance isn't that important on the stove, and with the numbers out there, sooner or later there's gonna be a fire, right?
Yeah, true. Or people are just lazy at times, right? And don't want to do the maintenance, or I'll save a couple bucks here. I'll do the maintenance next year, and well. And it just all goes up, well, literally in smoke.
So I've got a bit of an unrelated one as well, but a bit towards the prepping from CNBC. Basically, a lot of the Eastern or European countries are suspending the AstraZeneca COVID vaccine because of the blood clots that are popping up, shall we say, or forming. Of course, our Canadian government says, nope, nothing to see here. We're all good. Don't worry about it. So,
don't worry about it. You got free health care. It's okay.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with the fact they got left in the cold for the vaccine queue, but I just kind of laughed at saying before the show that Switzerland turned down this for general use. It wasn't approved in their eyes because it wasn't safe enough, and yet the very same day we turned around and ordered it because we were so far behind on getting ours done. So, yeah, well done.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said before the show, last I heard we were number 55 in the world for actually vaccinating our people. So,
yeah, it's
probably some room for improvement.
It's scary.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm no expert in vaccines, and I don't know. That one worries me.
Yeah.
But what do you do? Shall we move into what we've done lately for preps? So for myself, the snow's starting to melt, so we started cleaning up the yard and getting things as ready as we can for the garden. We're starting to plan out the backyard because we've backfilled a lot of it, so we're gonna start building our fence. We've got somebody contracted to come and put the posts in for us because I priced out renting all the equipment and the amount of time it was going to take, and said, you know what, for the price this guy is quoting me to come and do it all, done. So the posts are going to go in by someone that knows what they're doing. Then the rest of the fence I can just kind of mutter around with and figure out how I'm going to build it. And I suspect Jeff's going to come by and drink my beer while I build the fence.
Absolutely. Yep.
And
absolutely.
then while I was doing that out in the yard, I messed around with my my ham antenna a little bit more. Wanted it up a little bit higher. Yeah, it's down lower now. So that didn't work out. But hey, it still works. I just took it out of the tree and was hoping to get it up a little bit more, but didn't work out the way I was planning it. Which, hey, you know what? Sometimes happens. So at least it still works. It didn't fall completely down. I'll try again later. Oh, did we lose Ian?
I think we did, so I'll jump in. So I've, believe it or not,
Yeah,
actually started stacking my wood
apparently.
for next year already. I had some leftover from my friend who gives me wood. I got it late in the fall, so I've cut it and split it. It's just sitting in my trailer over the winter, so I've started stacking that. I've been studying for the ham test and did a little bit of food prep, rotated some stock around.
Nice. You're getting close to the end of that course, aren't you, for ham?
Yeah, it's we don't have a class this Thursday, and then I think there's 3 more, and then we're done. So
Nice.
yeah, we're getting close, and it's starting to make sense now that we're getting into the later stuff. That all of the stuff he taught before that I was scratching my head on is starting to make sense now. So
It all slowly comes together.
So
And
I
eventually,
just might end up passing. Who knows?
hey, you know what? And then after you learn it all you really need to know at the end of it is where the push to talk button is and how to program a repeater. But hey. Are you back, Ian? Oh, nope. Doesn't sound like it. Well,
No.
if we get Ian back, then we'll let him talk about what he's done, and that'll kill about a half hour of the show. So hopefully he gets his bandwidth back sooner than later. Let's move into the main topic, shall we? So the big thing we're talking about tonight is wood stove maintenance. It applies to really any wood burning appliance that you have in regards to the maintenance we're going to be talking about here, but specifically wood stoves. Mainly, why are you going to want a wood stove in your preps? Well, it's a backup or primary heat source, right? So some people will run them as a primary heat source in their homes. Some have them in their cabins or hunt camps or fish camps or wherever you're going for maybe an off-grid location. That's going to either be your primary or your backup heat source. So they're an expensive piece of equipment to purchase and install, or can be, depending. You can find them cheap as well, but if you're buying new, from what I've seen, it's a large investment. So maintaining it is obviously important, and on top of that, it's a safety thing, right? If Alan was here, he'd be jumping down my throat now about carbon monoxide poisoning, and he would be killing the other half hour of the show, which would drag us out to about an hour, and then we'd say that the show is done. That'd be the end of it, but. Since he's not here, he's not going to go on and on and on about carbon monoxide poisoning. So I figured I'd take 5 minutes and just remind everybody to install your carbon monoxide detectors and check your batteries twice a year. Are you back, Ian?
And yeah, I think so. And the time zone just changed, right? So it's time to do the batteries.
It is
Yep.
time to do the batteries.
Yep.
Oh,
And I
and
was
do
a
the
bad
launch smoke
boy.
detectors too.
Yeah, I was a bad boy. Did not do it this week yet, but I'll get on that.
Oh no.
Am I able to go back to what I did in preps now?
Yeah, you can go back. Absolutely.
All right.
That'll
Sorry
give me
about
time to
that.
go and get a refill.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
set aside half hour for you.
That's good. I feel bad now. I'm going to give you some editing work to do. But anyway, as for myself, let's see here. I did some brass prep with the brass I had picked up at the range a couple weeks ago. Did a interview with Mark Petroni again for Saga 960. I think it aired last Tuesday, so like 5 days ago. Got myself a MEC, or MEC, depends on how you want to pronounce it, 600 Junior shotgun reloading press on gun nuts for a smoking deal, but it showed up covered in rust, so I spent a good couple days like grinding it down and repainting it and ordering parts that were missing and everything else, but still a good deal after it's all said and done. The tree gods decided to leave me with some fresh firewood, so they sent a brand new hardwood tree over my fence, which required some chainsaw work and a fencing fix, but I got probably, I don't know, it's got to be 50 or 60 logs for the fire of hardwood, so that was good.
Oh,
Excellent.
nice.
Yeah. Let's see here. I started collecting some piping and some other stuff to get done. We're going to make a switch from 220 volt electric to propane gas cooking for the stove. So we're starting to collect all the materials up for that. We're going to do a change out this summer and then make it a little more off-grid / not dependent on electricity anyway. So that was good. And then other than that, just a little bit of house maintenance, and that's pretty much it. Just mostly the fencing, I think, because I didn't want the dog to escape.
Yeah, it's a good reason for a fence. That's why we're putting our fence in too.
Yeah, but no, that's pretty much it for me. It was a slack week, so.
Yeah, that was only a couple minutes.
Oh, wow,
We set aside a whole half hour for you.
Yeah, okay. So where would we leave off with the main topic?
So I touched on the fact that it's either going to be used for backup or primary heat source, and that it can be a large investment for preparedness, but one that could be necessary depending on your setup.
Well, I think that like most preps too, it actually pays back over time, right? Because if you're saving money on heating bills by using it fairly regularly, it's going to pay for itself over time, and they do last anywhere from 10 to 25 years, depending on how good you take care of it, right?
Oh, exactly.
Oh,
Which is why we're talking about maintenance.
My stove that I have, I don't know if you can see the chimney behind me there. No, I gotta move. But anyways, it's when I first bought this house, it's all electric, so electric baseboard, everything's electric. And back in the late 90s, they were paying $140 a month equal billing for everything. So you figure that now would probably be somewhere, I would guess, in the $300 to $400 range. And I put the stove in. It cost me $5,000 back then. It, like Eric says, if you take care of it, I've had it in for almost 20 years now. Never had an issue with it. Clean it properly, use properly seasoned wood. Never had an issue. And I'm paying right now. I'm paying $104 a month equal billing.
Yeah, that's
Wow,
pretty good.
that's
Considering
good,
considering what Hydro One's did with their power bills, and you'd have to pay like
Yep.
I think it was almost $100 before you even start paying for actually wattage. That's pretty good.
Yeah, delivery's like $100.
Yeah. So other than the backup cooking and light aspect too, like I mean, not just a heat source, but yeah, obviously you can get worst case scenario a tiny bit of light out of it. But I just want to clarify with people too. We're talking about wood stoves, meaning like not the old hearth fireplaces that are big rock, wonderful pieces that have like the open flue and everything else. These are the more efficient ones with the closed front, with the glass facing and everything else. Because I don't think you're gonna be able to get those old style fireplaces installed now.
You can see my stove there or not.
Let's see
Yep.
here. Yeah. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, one of those. So
Exactly.
because the old fire.
And we lost them again. I think I know where he was going. Those old fireplaces, basically half of your heat was just going up the chimney. They weren't that energy efficient. We had them back on the hobby farm, and yeah, it would pump out great heat, but half of it was going up the chimney, and so
Yeah,
a
we've
lot
got
of
that
them
problem
now.
with our
That's
fireplaces here.
yeah, that's part of the cost of the new stoves is the technology and the way they recycle the smoke and the gas and reburn it, and that's kind of what makes it a bit more expensive, but it's also more fuel efficient, and it doesn't pump out the smoke it used to. So
Well, especially if you want to install one of the old style fireplaces now, I think building codes require like sprinklers and all sorts of other like fire retardant measures that it's
Yep.
never going to happen, right? So
yeah.
No.
this is definitely the more sensible option, I think. And they can be standalone like Jeff's there. You can actually put an insert in the old stone fireplace to make it a little more efficient. You can do all sorts of little tricks with it. So, Anyway, I guess first, when you're first taking possession of a house or when you install it, there has to be something done called a WETT inspection.
Yep.
You guys familiar? I didn't realize what WETT stood for. Everybody just calls it a WETT inspection. I was thinking like with one T, but actually no, it's two T's. Wood Energy Technology Transfer, and they're actually like a non-profit group, I believe.
Yep.
And so yeah, their job is to ensure fire safety with wood stoves. And yeah, there's a website I threw in the show notes there. And basically, they'll come along and make sure that you've either installed it or it's still currently installed according to safety standards. And most insurance companies will want a WETT inspection done on the house when you take possession of it, or periodically they can just ask you out of the blue if you're using a wood stove in your house. They will ask in order to recertify your fire insurance that you have a WETT inspection done.
Yep. I had one done on the two fireplaces here when we bought the house, and same thing. The insurance company wanted it, and it was a smart idea when we bought the house to have it done. And
Yep.
So I guess the big thing we'll talk about tonight is creosote.
oh yeah,
Yeah, it's not just Mr. Creosote from Monty Python. That's
No.
dating myself, but yeah, no. So creosote, obviously a black gunky buildup that's basically unburnt wood bits, for lack of a better term. Main cause of chimney fires. If Alan was here, we'd hear about it, I'm sure, or Hughes. But
yep. Insert tangent here about chimney fires and carbon monoxide poisoning again.
Yep.
So yeah, the one thing with creosote, yeah, it causes chimney fires. It actually decreases the efficiency of your stove and everything else. So you want to minimize that or prevent the buildup of creosote on the inside of your exhaust stack and also the top stack as well. So a couple things. I think Jeff already mentioned one of them is make sure you use seasoned wood versus the wet or new wood. Reason being is that obviously the wet wood doesn't burn as efficiently and causes buildup. And same thing, it depends on what type of wood you're burning. The sappy spruce is going to suck and it's going to build up lots of creosote. Nice dry, year-old aged hardwood, kind of the opposite. Won't leave much behind, right?
And believe it or not, there is a way to season your wood and do it properly. Don't just throw a big pile on the ground and cover it with a tarp and expect it to be dry in the fall. Do it properly. Get it off the ground. Get it in a stack where there's airflow. You cover it, but you've got to allow airflow or it's not going to dry. And like you say, if it's wet or the sappy spruce that you haven't let dry for a long time, you're going to get that creosote buildup. And it's pretty obvious if you've got, especially on my stove, if for whatever reason I somehow end up getting some bad wood or something, it doesn't take long and that glass front on the door is black within like a couple hours.
Bane Ironhead asks how many stovepipes is legal to have glowing red before it's a problem. I'm like, well, technically you're probably burning off most of the creosote, so I suppose it's not a problem at that point. Fire hazard might be, but...
I'm no lawyer, and I'm not going to even attempt to give you any kind of legal advice, but I would suggest that all of them should be glowing all the time.
Yeah, that's like, you're never going to be freeze to death, that's for sure.
No.
Well, if he's talking about the glowing red hot, then he's overfired his stove, and at that point, you're looking at any creosote in there potentially catching fire. So,
oh, absolutely.
I think
the
it's
next news
mentioned.
article.
Yeah, I think it's mentioned in there about a thermostat. I've got one on my chimney stack, and I've never had it glowing red hot, so thank goodness. But it doesn't take long, and it gets right up into the 300-400 degrees, no problem.
Back to that, I forgot to mention the tarp thing, Jeff. You mentioned about drying out your wood. Like, you guys have seen that little survival trick where you're in the desert and you take a saran wrap and a rock and you let the sand evaporate water onto the saran wrap and it drips down into a pot in the middle and all that stuff. You've seen that kind of thing in the Boy Scout manual or SAS survival manual, something like that. Anyways, the same thing happens here. So, of course, you cover the trees with a tarp, and it's so humid here to begin with, but also the trees, they'll evaporate off the moisture, and it just collects on the tarp and then goes right back down. So,
Exactly.
So you got to have airflow underneath.
That's exactly what happens.
Yeah, so if you don't have the airflow, like you have a tarp at an angle or something, and if you don't have the airflow underneath it, it's just going to stay wet and mold up and get all punky and gross.
And be useless. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So, so the one thing to indicate whether or not you're building up creosote basically is if you can see the smoke, you're probably building up creosote. So if it's burning white or if it's smoky gray or whatever, the ideal is to look at the top of your stack out at the top of your house, and as long as it's not minus 40 where you're going to have like frost anyway, but if it's a normal temperature, you should just see it clear, like clear with heat kind of swirls, and that's about it. and that means you're burning most efficiently at that point.
Yep.
So yeah, prevention of creosote. I think you mentioned it last week too, Jeff. Just run it hot for an hour, like relatively hot, and then you can reduce it down, because once you got the stack heated up and to a point where it won't collect up stuff, you can reduce it down to your kind of cruising level, depending on how
Yep.
cold it is outside.
Yeah, you've got to get it up to temperature definitely, or if you turn it down to what you call cruising level there, you turn the damper down and it lowers the flame. It's just gonna, if it's not warm enough, it's gonna creosote, and it probably won't burn either, because there's not enough flow of the air going up the warm chimney. Warm air rises, it's not hot enough. The air doesn't rise fast enough, and you'll see a buildup of smoke in your chimney and then you're inside your fireplace.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned the temperature gauge, so yeah, that's usually a good indication of whether you're at the right burning temperature. That definitely helps, and you put it right on the stack. Double wall is not as accurate, of course, but you can figure out what works temperature-wise, what it indicates versus what you should be at. Single wall is what I think it's designed for, the side of the fireplace. But
yeah, it won't work on a double wall, because there's too much insulation between your inner stack and your outer wall, and you won't get an accurate temperature at all. So.
Yeah, and I think new ones, they need to have double stack stovepipes on them anyways, don't they? I think that's kind of...
I don't know. Mine's a single up to the junction in the roof, and then from the junction in the roof going up is a double.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
And it's the code. So
other than that, I was going to mention the leave like 1 inch of ash at the bottom with a lot of these reburner stoves, because they basically say if you vacuum it dry every time, it's less efficient. I don't know. It creates a little bit of insulative layer in a little airspace or something, I guess.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's see here. Another side of creosote is if you have window deposits. So if you have the black junk on the front of your window, that is a problem. So don't use Windex to clean it off. Ask me how I know. Glass and masonry cleaner. There's actually go to your fireplace store. You can actually get specific stuff to clean your glass, and it's just easy off oven foam. So you just basically wait till it's cooled down one day, spray it down, wipes right off. It's awesome. But it is.
That's the big key. Let it cool down. Yeah. Don't just open it after you've had a hot fire and spray it on there. It's not going to go well.
Ask me how I know.
Even if it's designed to be the glass spray, it's not going to go well.
Yeah. So this is the first time we had a full-time wood stove. So yeah, lessons learned. Same thing with that little. It looks like asbestos, but it's not. But that little curtain of fabric around the edge of the window where it creates a seal for the fireplace. Got to make sure that's in decent shape too. If it's got too much of an air leak, or you're asking for problems too. So. And let's see here. Other than that, if you're going to paint your chimney, make sure you use high heat paint for the chimney, because you don't want to have that stuff flaking off and burning. It smells really bad. Ask me how I know.
Probably not good for you.
Same thing, spare fire bricks. So never hurts to have these lying around, because these are about, $4 or $5 a piece. And if one gets cracked because you throw it in a piece of wood with too much enthusiasm, or maybe temperature changes or whatever, replace the ones that are cracked. It makes for a more even heat and longer life for the fireplace. And fire insurance. Make sure your house has it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Just a thought. Smoke detectors we talked about. Make sure you have them. See here. You said, Jeff, last week, I think you mentioned that you clean yours twice a year?
At least, yep.
Okay. That's good. That's very keen. I only do it once a year, but we don't have Brady any build up, so it's not really much point.
I don't really either, but I just it's not that hard to do. It's pretty easy, and why take the chance? That's my thing. I don't get much build up in it either, but I'm just not going to take that chance.
Yeah, no, totally. I get that. So when it comes time, actually, I just got to put down my headset for 1 second. I got to grab my little tool. I forgot to grab it here.
We're talking about wood, and now Ian is going to grab a tool. I don't know if we should be concerned. Should we blank his screen out now or later?
I'm not sure.
Well, I said I was going to grab my tool. I didn't say I was going to grab my BBC like I did before. So anyway, so show and tell show. These are little lengths of rod. So I'm grabbing my rod as we speak. So
grabbing your rod, talking about wood. Grabbing your tool.
Talking about wood, playing with my tools. And so these come in about 5-foot sections, and they have little threaded ends on them. Kind of easy to see there. and they extend. They're highly flexible. They're like the tent poles, like that you construct your tent with. And at the very end of it, this goes on. So this is the chimney brush, and they come in various sizes depending on the width of your chimney pipe. Ideal is to match them up.
That would make sense.
That would make the most sense, yeah. Some guys actually have a drill attachment. They can actually spin their drill and will actually spin the thing in there. I was not so fortunate this year. But anyway, rule of thumb, try and get the nylon one versus the steel one, because the steel one will actually put scoring in your stacks, create rust, and then you've got bigger maintenance issues. So the hard plastic ones actually are kind of the better option, as far as I'm concerned anyway, because I live in the Rust Belt. But yeah,
that's I have exactly the same thing, and I have the hard plastic.
Yeah, so once
and it works really well.
Yeah, so once you remove the top plate of your chimney, and also the top plate in the wood stove itself, there's like a little pin in the very back. Pull that pin, and then usually the top plate will come right out, and then you're actually, because normally if you look in your wood stove, it's just got like a solid top, which is really unusual. You have to pull that thing out before you start scrubbing it, and then once you got the top off, which usually will have a lot of collection of creosote on it, get that brush all the way down, and you'll notice that just at the top of the chimney and just at the bottom of the chimney is usually where you're going to see the most, and then it'll collect up in your wood stove, hopefully without the door open, and then you can vacuum it out afterwards. And that's pretty much it. It only takes, 15-20 minutes, really, to get it done once it's all set up?
Yeah, about that. Yep.
Yeah, It's not that bad. I usually, with the actual cap on the chimney, I tend to repaint that just to make sure, because sometimes you'll notice that once you scrub off the creosote, there's some scratches there as well. Just, give it a little maintenance. And it should. Once that's done, you've got a great backup heat source for another year.
Yeah,
and not just a backup piece. I mean, there's lots of other things you can do with the chimney the stove that we don't need to get into, but things like I've been looking at buying one, just a small thermoelectric generator that runs the difference, of course, between the hot and the cold, and it's on a magnetic plate, and you just stick it on the top of your stove. It's 45 watts. Your stove's running, and you can easily charge your laptops, your phones, whatever. It's designed to sit on the stove. That's what it's designed for. It's a place in Vaughan, I believe, that makes them, and they can go all the way up to 100 watts, but they're water cooled, so I'm not touching that. So
yeah,
well, it's kind of like a BioLite, same principle, right? Turning heat into electricity.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And so yeah, why not? But Brendan asked a question here. Do we have any experience with masonry heaters and/or rocket stoves? Masonry heaters are awesome, but they're about $40,000, and there's only 2 companies in Canada that actually do it. It's actually like a Red Seal trade, or like you have to be a journeyman masonry heater guy to actually do that and have it approved by insurance in Canada. So it's actually a big deal. Like over in Russia, it's like dime a dozen. Everybody does them, but not here. And rocket stove, yeah, unfortunately, these will actually not insure your house if you have a rocket stove. So, am I back?
Your pigeons do not want to fly tonight.
No, I hear you, but insurance companies won't touch you if you have a rocket stove in your house. So that's a problem. And that's pretty much all I had.
Yeah. Let's see. So I've got a couple of points here. We've touched on the creosote thing. It's regular inspections. They're going to help reduce the risk of having a house fire, right? That's kind of the whole point of doing the maintenance thing. Maintaining the wood stove, making sure that everything's running properly is always going to make sure the efficiency is running well. You're getting the most bang out of your buck for the wood that you're burning. You're not going to burn your house down, which is nice. And we've touched on how to clean it with a brush head, extendable rods. Messy but doable. It can be done by yourself. You can do it on your own. First time we had our fireplaces cleaned out, we had a professional come out. I'd YouTubed a little bit. I kind of knew how to do it, but I wanted to see how a professional did it first. And then I just struck up a conversation with them when they were here. Just talked to them about it, talked to them about what I needed to know about the fireplace, how it operated, how to clean it. And it's amazing what you can learn from just striking up a conversation with someone that does this day in and day out. They obviously, they should like it if it's what they're doing. They have an interest in it. They know what they're doing, or at least you hope when you hire them that they know what they're doing. And I just talked to them. And next thing I know, I've got a whole list of how to operate my fireplace efficiently, how to clean it properly, and how to maintain it myself, which I guess isn't the best for business, but it worked out.
there's no shortage of business for these guys. Like,
Yeah.
we used to have a girl that showed up in a top hat and everything else, and she was called herself she called herself the chimney sweep and everything else, and she was full on Mary Poppins about it. And she was having trouble with maintaining employees because nobody wanted to do the dirty job, but B, there was just so much work out there. She was actually hoping people would do it themselves, and she ended up just giving up. She just was overwhelmed, and it's too bad. So I ended up doing it myself for a couple of years.
Yeah, it was a father-son team that came out to do ours, and the father was just kind of getting out of the business. Son was looking to take it over, and just chatted them up. And next thing I knew, they were showing me everything I needed to know, and yeah, it was good. So don't be afraid to chat up the professionals on anything you're looking to try to fix up or do on your own. A lot of the time, they're more than willing to chat with you and talk to you about it because it's something they enjoy, and who doesn't like talking about what they know about, right?
Cool.
See, we got a question from Scott.
Yeah, he said, I tape a big clear garbage bag around the top section and have the brush inside, catches all the crap as it falls.
Yep.
Yeah, it all works.
Yeah.
I mean, I have my shop vac outside the house and then run the hose in. And then so that way, if the filter doesn't quite have a good seal on it, as I vacuum it out, it just shoots outside anyways. But yeah, whatever works.
Yeah, it's a good point. Be ready for a lot of dirt and ash to come out.
Yeah, I do exactly the same thing that Scott said there with mine. Mine's the chimney just comes down and it connects right to the stove. So I just take the 3 screws out, slide the chimney up, put a plastic bag underneath it, go up top, scrub it down, and everything falls into the paper bag or the plastic bag. And actually, it's a pretty clean way to do it. I don't get a lot of mess. I get some, but not a lot.
Yeah, it's not like divorce dust when you're doing drywall or anything. It's not nearly as bad anyway. Easy to pick up too.
Yep.
Just be prepared first time you do it. It's going to be messy. You'll get a system eventually, but the first couple of times you try to do it, you're going to get dust places, and it is what it is. At least your chimney's clean.
Actually, Bane brings up a good point there. He says you can use ash out of the fireplace to clean the window. He says just dip a wet rag in the stove ash and.
Well, look at that.
Look at that. Okay.
The window's nice. Yeah. Fair enough. I'll try that next time it's cold. Not hot. He also mentions rocket stoves are good for cooking, but for heating, I wouldn't use them for more than that. More of an outdoor thing, I think. It's not so much they don't work, and actually, if you go on YouTube, there's tons of the ones they got these massive rocket stoves with all these convoluted pipings and stuff, and they have like super high efficiency and they work great. It's just too new of a. Actually, it's a very old idea, but it's too new of a concept for modern day building. I think so they just don't like it because they don't know what they're getting into. So the insurance companies just hate it. But there's a lot of potential there for sure. They don't use any wood at all.
And Bane is correct. It is not a white T-shirt job. Definitely not.
Definitely not.
And Scott asks, have you used stove polish to prevent rusting? I think I actually had this conversation with Scott offline as well. Because ours is running all winter, theoretically, as casual use according to my insurance purposes. But yeah, since it's running all winter, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't get cold enough. Like it doesn't have the temperature swings where it goes up and down, and the house isn't so cold that it's creating condensation on it. That we don't have any problems with rust because it's basically the hottest point in the house, and the air is hot and dry. So we generally don't have a problem with rust. And then come summertime here, it's ludicrously dry. We don't have rain between like April and October, like not a day. So there's no chance for this thing to rust on my end. So I've never used stove polish, but I think where the climate's a little more volatile, yeah, especially with the thunderstorms and stuff, I could see the rust happening in a cottage or someplace where the stove isn't used every day. Absolutely.
I don't have an issue with mine over the summer that I have to use stove polish. I mean, I'm probably at some point going to have to change that chimney or the single wall that goes up just from the stove. It's starting to show a couple little signs on the outside, but again, it's 20 years old, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think it doesn't owe you anything after if it's provided you 15 years of solid heat. After that, I think it's a bonus.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Right. One thing the island mentor mentioned to me too is that I think I've mentioned this before on the show. Don't get the one that they say is good for the square footage of your house. Get the biggest one you can.
Yeah.
Because that way you can always burn more, but you can't burn. Like when it's got a small stove and you want more heat, you can't add more wood.
Yeah.
And it's better to have it half full and in use than with the option
You
to fill it up
could
more.
you could add more, but it would be beside the stove, and that's not where you want it.
Yeah, no. So
Yeah.
just get the biggest one you can, and
Yep.
or either afford or space wise and with clearance around the walls and stuff. Just
Yep.
go big or go home with this stuff. So
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be something you're going to use for many, many, many years. So throw a couple of bucks at it now, and it'll pay for itself down the road, like we said at the beginning of the show.
Yep. So Ian touched on a few things, but I'll touch on a few from my experience of having the stove for so long. Basically, when you're done for the season, clean your chimney. Don't wait till the fall. Couple reasons. A, like Ian said, it's tough to sometimes find people to do it. And if you wait till the fall when the other 90% of the people with a stove are wanting to get it done, you may be waiting a long time. Creosote is acidic, so you shouldn't let it sit in your chimney all summer. It really isn't that great for it. Once you clean it, inspect your chimney for any damage. Ice could have fallen off of a tree branch or something, or anything like that. Ensure that where it comes into the house, it's sealed well. Nothing's dried out. Again, no damage. It's amazing what little critters, what little space they need to get in. And then, like Ian said, the fire bricks, I checked the interior of your stove for any cracked or damaged fire bricks, and replace them, obviously. Ensure that all your door and glass gaskets are in good shape. Every 2 or 3 years, I remove all my fire bricks and inspect them. I have found one that was cracked on the backside. So, and that allows you also to just look at your firebox, make sure that, again, there's no rust in behind the fire bricks, no cracks, no anything like that. Just touching on the wood itself. I know we're talking about wood stove maintenance, but I want to touch on the wood itself. Again, if you're using properly dried and seasoned wood, creosote won't be or shouldn't be a huge problem. Dry it properly. Like I said, don't just drop it on the ground and cover it with a tarp. Put it, I should have taken pictures of my my woodshed. Basically, all it is it's a lean-to, and it's open on all sides. Make sure that it can get a little bit of sun. It doesn't have to get a lot, but the really big thing is be open to the wind or to the breeze. Have it open so that goes through. That'll dry it out fast. Again, if you drop it on the ground, it's just gonna suck up the moisture from the ground, and you're gonna have shitty wood. If you're cutting your own trees and doing anything, you really should have them on the ground now. It's best to cut them or at least get them down while they're dormant. If you wait till the sap is running, it's going to take longer to season your wood. So
That's a good point.
do a little bit of effort in the winter if you can, or in the fall, leave it sitting there. It doesn't matter, but it should be down again, like I say, when it's dormant before the sap runs, and that'll make sure that it's properly seasoned for you and you don't run into wet wood issues. So
actually, the trick around here the guys use, because the ground is so wet, they'll actually like just chainsaw in the top inch all the way around, because they're bigger trees, right? But that's actually the live part of the tree that transports the sap and the water. So if they actually change the first inch all the way around the tree, it can start out on the vine, so to speak, and they can knock down the tree later, and it's been drying out the whole time. So
oh, really? Okay.
that's something
cool.
so do that in the middle of winter, and yeah, it's just when we don't have to knock it down then, but it's still stopped getting moisture at that point.
Okay.
Neat
Never
trick.
heard of that before, but I'll buy it. I'll Google it.
Yeah.
I mean, if it seems to work, then
Yeah.
there's always new ways to learn things. So
Yep.
Cool.
yeah, that's basically all I've got. Like all Eric and Ian have said, if you do your little bit of maintenance, it's not a lot, it's not hard, it's dirty, but it doesn't take a long time. You will reap the benefits long down the road. It's like a car. If you just drive it until the oil light comes on, good luck. So do your maintenance, do it properly, and take a few minutes. Like I say, check for any damage. I mean, my chimney goes straight up and through my roof, so I always check the top plate on it, make sure that it's the the sealant's all there. It does dry out every couple of years. I got to reseal it, and I've never had an issue. I've never had any water intrusion or any issues.
Yeah, so I'd say the main thing is if you're, learn how your stove works, learn how to maintain it. If you're not 100% sure how to do it, call someone that knows, and then ask a bunch of questions
Yep.
and go from there. But don't just set it up, burn wood, and think that you're fine. And the heat will just burn everything else out, and I don't have to do anything else. There is definitely some maintenance to these devices that you need to keep up on. And I will just throw in there again, because I know it'll make Alan happy. Carbon monoxide poisoning is a thing.
Yep.
So, yeah. So watch out for that. Check your batteries. You're welcome, Alan.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I think we've checked off all the boxes for this topic. It's an important one. It's one that people ask about quite often, and so hopefully we've helped a few people out. Shall we move into the podcast challenge?
And one thing that just to quickly add before we take it is, don't, and I think it got mentioned on the last show, don't just burn anything. Don't just find old laminate flooring laying around and decide, oh, it's wood, I'm going to burn it. Burn proper firewood. Don't
good
just,
point. We didn't touch on that. Good point.
Yeah, don't just burn anything. Burn proper seasoned dried firewood.
Yeah.
Well, unless the police are knocking at the door, then you got to burn all those papers quickly, right?
There's a time and place to burn other things, but for the most part...
Yeah, for the most part. Well, as long as they run them through the
season.
shredder first, then you try and burn them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway. So your podcast challenge, to take steps and gather supplies to perform maintenance on any backup heat supply you may have. So, whether it be just a brush and some spray foam or whatever, just gather it up now. Can't hurt to have it.
Yep. Exactly. So, upcoming events is blank, as it has been for the last quite a while, unfortunately, but
Week 53 of 2 weeks to flatten the curve.
you got it. Curve's still not flat, so our upcoming events is empty. Deal of the week.
All right, so Rangeview Sports advertised a semi-automatic 22 long rifle, which is the Savage 64 made in Lakefield, Ontario. Probably one of the oldest 22 designs still in production, and it's on sale for $169 right now, which is insanely
What are you
cheap.
doing to me? What are you doing to me?
It's, hey, be patriotic, buy local, support Ontario businesses. But yeah, no, that's a good deal. So, notes
Well,
in
I
the
know
show
what I'm
there.
doing after the show.
Links in the show notes.
Yep.
Yay. Cool. All right, let's move into some shout-outs. So I've got a quick shout-out to all the Patreons for the show. Much appreciate everybody supporting us. We've actually been able to renew the hosting for another year off of all of your contributions. So much appreciated.
All right, I got one for Will at Billazier Fine Shotguns, which is tough to say, I guess easy to find. He was the one that sell me the spare parts for the show. And he's a gentleman farmer in Alberta, as well as a shotgun press and reloading supply dealer. So, interesting cat. And I just want to say thanks for the quick service.
Your pigeons hate you today, Ian. We got
really?
Will and something about shotguns and service.
Awesome. Well, Will at Billazier Fine Shotguns, and he's got reloading press and shotgun reloading parts.
There we go. Perfect.
There you go.
Pigeons worked that time.
Oh, and it was so classy and well-spoken the first time.
Yeah.
Sure it was. Anyway.
Whatever you say.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we move into email and iTunes reviews? You've got
All right,
one.
I got one from Imogen Official 7. It says, "You are amazing, Eric." So I have to ask, did you send yourself a comment?
We now know my username on YouTube.
That's right.
I did not send that in, but I appreciate the comment.
All right. You have a fan.
Look at that. Oh, well. Cool. All right, so we've got an email here from John. So it reads, "Hey there, Ian. I was just listening to the podcast on using lead and thought that I would mention a few ideas to you that I use to find a fair bit of lead. So it only costs me some coffee and donuts." Oh, there you go. That's all right. One place is from old buildings that have cast iron drainage piping in them. Good point. And every joint that piping has a lead cap over the oakum. So, yeah,
All right.
yeah, good point. You can contact whoever is doing the demo work or the plumber to pick through the dumpster after they have thrown it out. There's roughly half-pound ring of lead in each joint. Also, if you know any people that install new roofs on houses, they usually use lead finishing around the chimneys and other objects, which a lot of times they will rip out and throw away to install a new waterproof seal with a new roof. Anyway, I hope this works for you. As I know, I have gotten hundreds of pounds of lead this way. Best wishes to a fellow scrounger, and thanks for all the work on the podcast. And that's from John in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, I've never seen cast iron drainage pipe before.
Yeah, but I guess it's a thing.
I guess there is I was talking to a buddy.
Yeah.
There's totally a lead seal around it, but in older buildings, that was the way they did it, right?
Yeah.
So
that's a good
same thing with
point.
leaded glass. If you have stained glass or the old style windows, they have lead seals around each pane of glass. There's all that too.
Or
Yeah,
even
that's a good
really old buildings actually had lead piping.
Yeah.
Geez, that'd be horrible. I hope it's drainage pipe, not water supply.
Ooh.
And that's how the
Actually,
Romans. Well, they said that's what caused part of the Roman collapse was the lead piping and the water supply pipes. So.
Yeah. Well, no, I appreciate that, John. Thanks for the tips. So for all the metal scroungers out there, the lead scroungers out there, you got some more spots to look now.
Cool.
All right. Well, with that, I will bring episode 109 of the Canadian Prepper podcast to an end. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, or, of course, your favorite podcast app. Please help us out. Submit a review. It helps other people find us.
And we record these shows live on Facebook and YouTube. If you want an early peek at the shows, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Canadian Prepper Podcast. Click on the notifications tab, and that gives you an alert when we are going live.
All right.
Hey, so you can reach Ian directly by
emailing at thewesternretreat@gmail.com.
There he is.
Oh, am I back?
Yeah, so you're kind of back.
Okay.
So if Ian's
just read
pigeons
it.
decide to
Make
work,
that mouse run faster.
on the days that Ian's pigeons actually work and he has reliable internet, you can get him at the Western Retreat at gmail.com and on Gab at the Western Retreat and in the group Self-Reliance and Homesteading Canada. You can also find Ian on Canadian Patriot Podcast on iTunes and YouTube, again, if his internet decides to work on Monday night at 9 p.m. You will find them discussing why government waste in society has him using off-grid heat and no internet. So, please check out Rapid Survival at rapidsurvival.com. You can get me there on the live chat while you're buying some prepper gear. You can also email me at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca. Thanks for joining us this evening, and until next time, be prepared, stay safe,
and keep learning.